Namaskar. Welcome to this fourth and the final session of the summary of the fifth Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with the gratitude towards the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pray to this Guru Shishya Parampara through which this knowledge is preserved, transmitted so as to reach us. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and I am able to share this understanding with you. We start with the prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let us just in a nutshell recapitulate the first three Adhyaya summary. The first Adhyaya starts with Arjuna's aviveka. He is unable to discriminate what is dharma, what is adharma, what is the right thing to do, what is not the correct thing to do. And this comes out of his delusion, his moha. When he sees all his opponents, his own people, and he gets kind of an attachment, an asakti, and develops a moha, and is unable to have a clear vision. And our Shastras tell us that this moha comes out of ajnana of our own self, ignorance of our own real self, whom we are. And that's why the main solution to this problem is to get Atma Gnana, know our own self, to get rid of all these moha, dukkha, sansara, dharma, adharma, aviveka. And Arjuna here is the candidate for this self-knowledge, not Duryodhana. Even Duryodhana does not know what is dharma, adharma. But Duryodhana is on the wrong path. He's not on the righteous path. Arjuna is on the righteous path. He wants to travel on the path of dharma, and that's why he is the candidate for this Atma Gnana. In the second Adhyaya, Bhagavan gives this knowledge of the self, the Atma Gnana, Atma Tattva Updesha, the Brahma Gnana, and then talks about how we can understand this, and talks about first and the foremost sadhana, the means to obtain this Atma Gnana, Karma Yoga. And after talking this about Karma Yoga, he talks about the attributes of a person who is firmly rooted in deep wisdom, Sthita Prajna Mahapurusha. In the third Adhyaya, Bhagavan talks about different attitudes of Karma Yoga which we can inculcate in our life so as to make our life more enriching, more meaningful, starting from our karma, how we can go to Karma Yoga with a different attitude. What are those attitudes? Bhagavan talks about in details. And in the fourth Adhyaya, Bhagavan talks about how we can renounce our karma, how we can give up, how we can, become, relieve ourselves from our karma by the understanding, by this gnana, by the self-knowledge. And that's why it is called Gnana KarmSanyas Yoga. Essentially, first we have to accept karma, we have to do karma, we have to do it with a certain attitude, purify our own self, and then what is this renunciation of karma or actions? So from karma, how we can go to akarma by this gnana, that is what the fourth Adhyaya told us. So fourth Adhyaya talked about the Gnana Parampara, lineage, the incarnations of the God, talked about the Nishkam Karma Yoga. Bhagavan talked about what is the Gyani Mahapurusha, what are his virtues, and then talked about the 12 yagnas, the means of attaining this Atma Gnana, and said that Gnana Yagna is the Sreshta. It is the best way. Gnana is the final goal to the understanding of the Atma Gnana. And then he talks about the benefits of the knowledge, what are the real benefits. So Gnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, we understood how we can renounce our actions by self-knowledge leading to freedom. The goal is moksha. For the unwise person, both pravrutti and nivrutti, both action, activity and inactivity, both are karma. Because even while he is in inactivity, that person is thinking about what he's going to do next. And this seeking, this desires, this keeps a person on and on and on. And that's why both are karma. Whereas for the wise person who is fully, deeply rooted in Atma Tattva, for that person, pravrutti and nivrutti both are a karma. Because even while that person is in pravrutti, that person is in the akarma, akarta, Atma Swarupa. And that's why both of these is akarma. So the understanding is that all the karma happens in this anatma kshetra, the body-mind complex, to which we are normally attached with. Whereas the true self, the real self, our own self, the Atma, is akarma. It is akarta by Swarupa. It is sakshi. And that's why in life, while we are doing our kartavya karma, our duty, we must keep a vision on the akarta Atma Swarupa. And the karma sannyasa, gnana karma sannyasa, essentially means that the karma falls off like a ripened fruit when Gnana is matured. When we mature, we will give up. So giving up karma is not an outer attitude, it's an inner attitude, which Bhagavan is trying to explain to us. In the last shloka of the 4th Adhyaya, Bhagavan says, that's why what you need to do, Arjuna, you must, the ignorance which is there in your heart, in your mind, in your intellect, Arjuna, with the sharp sword of this Atma Gnana, you have to destroy all your inner doubts, all your sanshaya. And Bhagavan says, Atishta Bharata, hey Arjuna, by practicing this yoga, karma yoga, stand up, get ready, fight this war. So after having talked about a lot of gnana, again Bhagavan is telling Arjuna to do his karma. And that's why there is some confusion in the mind of Arjuna that what is to be done, whether gnana is to be done and or karma is to be done. And that's why the 5th Adhyaya, the first shloka of the 5th Adhyaya starts with this confusion in the mind of Arjuna. What is it that I need to do? Do I need to do karma yoga, or do I need to renounce karma or give up karma and go on to the knowledge path? What is it that I need to do? That's how he asked this question. Arjuna Uvacha, he says, Bhagavan, you praise both renunciation and karma yoga. You are saying that both are good, but you tell me out of these two, which one is the most beneficial? Sunishchitam Shreya, which will give me the Shreya Kalyana, which is the highest benefit, which I want. Arjuna always wants Shreya. He does not want to go on the path of prayer. Prayer is this worldly afflictions, this success or victories in the world, whereas Shreya it's transcendental, it is beyond this worldly matters, and that is the Param Kalyana, the Param highest benefit. That's what he wants. Even the 3rd Adhyaya, if you remember, starts with this. Bhagavan tells Arjuna, Arjuna asks Bhagavan that, you are telling me both Gnana Karma, Tatkim Karmani Gorema, but why do you then inspire me into this Ghora Karma? I don't know why. You are already praising that knowledge is the best, but why do you want me to push me into this karma? And that's why he asks again, Ekayo Nishchitam, Bruhitanme Sunishchitam. He says, tell me one thing that is the best for me. Even there in the 3rd Adhyaya, Bhagavan said, Lokesmin Dvividhanishta. He said there are two things, two paths, Pravrutti, Nivrutti, both the paths lead to the divine, to the supreme. Here also Bhagavan is answering and he says, both are important, Arjuna. He doesn't tell him that you do this one or this one. We have to decide based on our eligibility. But Bhagavan praises Karma Yoga. He says, Sannyasa, Karma Yoga, both Anishreyasa Karavubho. Both are to be done. Both lead to the highest goal. Both are good. But out of the two, he says, Tutayoho, Karmasanyasat Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Karma Yoga is superior to renunciation. According to Bhagavan, it is Vishesha, it is Sreshta, it is the highest, it is better than renunciation. So in Gita ji, always the Karma Yoga path is the more celebrated path because it is mainly a scripture for most of us who are the average normal people. It is not for that highest level of eligibility, the Gnana Adhikari. For example, the Upanishads are meant for the people who are already renounced, who are already, at a much more advanced stage in spiritual journey. Whereas Gita ji is more for the people who are householders, Pravritta. Of course, it is not that it talks about only Karma Yoga, because Gita ji also talks that ultimately it's a moksha that is a final goal, and that's why it is also called the Moksha Shastra. But the way to moksha is through karma, and that's why in karma we have to first accept the karma, we have to do Karma Yoga, and then gradually we have to give up karma. And this is true for everything in life. We have to first accept it, use it, and then give it away. As a child, as we were, we used to accept the toys, play with them, and then give up away. And then as we grow older, we need more and more different and different toys for our enjoyment. And that's how even in life, Bhagavan says, first you have to accept Karma Yoga, and then you can give it up. So who are those people who are eligible for sannyas, renunciation? And there are very few people who already have had the Shuddhi, the Antakarana Shuddhi, their Raga Dvesha have been neutralized. Their decisions are based on their Viveka. They know what is Shastra, what is this understanding, what is this, and they have a balance, they have a Vairagya. They don't give so much of importance to these worldly matters, and they have a kind of a restraint over their own self, Atma Sanyama. And with this Atma Sanyama, they have a control over their Indriya, Mana, Buddhi, speech, everything. And they have very less desires in this world. They don't have much expectations from others. They don't want to become very rich. They don't want to become very, they don't have much expectation, dasha. They have a normal living. They prefer and they enjoy isolation, ekanta. They are not lazy. Even during isolation, they would be doing all their sadhana. And those are the people who are composed, very tatastha in worldly affairs, very swastha. These are the people who are, according to Guruji, are the people who are eligible for sannyasa. For most of others, Karma Yoga is the most eligible path, and that's why Bhagavan is also telling us here that you should do Karma Yoga. And then Bhagavan tells Arjuna that both Karma Yoga and sannyasa both are equivalent, equates both Karma Yogi and a sannyasi. He says, Yona dveshtina kankshati. One who does not have a strong raga dvesha. Know that Gneya sa nitya sannyasi. Know that this person is a nitya sannyasi, is ever a sannyasi. It is not that we have to given up our house, our clothes, we have to wear those saffron clothes, only then we become a sannyasi. No, Bhagavan says we have to dissolve our raga dvesha to become a real sannyasi. And that can be done even while we stay in the home, even while we wear our normal clothes and we do our regular work. If we have this kind of a raga dvesha which are dissolved, then Bhagavan says by nidvandva hi sukham, by rising above this raga dvesha, the strong likes and dislikes, this, of course, the normal average likes and dislikes will be there, but the strong jida, invalid insistence, duragraha, hatha, all this has to be dissolved. And only then that Bhagavan says, his sukham bandhat pramuchyate, that person becomes happy only by this. And that's why both, Guruji tells us that both karma and vichara, both are important. Just doing actions without thinking of the consequences is not going to help us in life. And only doing thinking and not doing actions is also not going to help us in life. Both karma with adequate vichara, with adequate thinking, proper thinking, is both are essential to lead to Samatva or Raga Dvesha dissolution. And then Bhagavan tells us that the understanding, what is the understanding of this person? Bhagavan says, Sankhya Yoga Pruthak Bala. Pruthak Bala means Balak. Balak Buddhi means childlike people, immature people. They believe that Sankhya Yoga and Yoga are Pruthak. They are different. They give different results. But Bhagavan says, Pravadanti na panditaha. But the wise people, they never say this. They never say that, Karma Yoga is different and Sankhya Yoga knowledge is different. They both believe that both are part of the same journey. And ekam api samyak astitaha ubayo vindate phalam. If one is well determined on one path, then the final destination that we'll reach is the same. There is only one goal, but there are different ways of reaching to that goal. One may take the Karma Yoga path and join the Gnana Yoga and reach the goal. Somebody who is more eligible will directly take the Gnana path and reach the goal. But ultimately, the goal is one. Both lead to Gnana, both require Gnana to achieve moksha. So both Karma Yoga and Sannyasa lead to the same goal. The ultimate goal is moksha. That is what Bhagavan is trying to tell us. And the true vision, he says, Yat Sankhya Prapyate Sanam, the state that is achieved by knowledge, the same state that is achieved by Karma Yoga, that is moksha. And one who knows well that Karma Yoga and Gnana Yoga achieve the same state, this is Yah Pashyati, Sapashyati. That person knows, he has a correct wisdom, knows truly that both these are not contradictory paths. In our vision, person who is doing karma and person who is sannyasa, we believe that both are contradictory. This is a person who is we may label them as good person. This person is not a good person, has given up actions. But in the eyes of the Lord, his vision is very different. For him, both this Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyasa, both are the same path. The path may be really different, but actually the goal that we reach is the same. So Bhagavan is trying to tell us that there is no alternative to knowledge. There is no alternative Tina factor to Gnana. And the options are many. Maybe one may take the Pravrutti Marga, Nivrutti Marga, one may take the Karma Yoga path, one may give the Karma Sannyasa path. But ultimately the goal that we reach, moksha, is the one, is the same. So essentially what we have already understood, that there are two paths Bhagavan tells us to. And based on our eligibility, we have to choose the path of Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga. Bhagavan is telling us here that most of the people are eligible for the path of Karma Yoga because they don't have the kind of purity, Shuddhi. And only people who are purified, that are under Karani Shuddha, the Raga Dvesha have been dissolved, those are the people who are eligible for the path of knowledge. But finally, the ultimate road, ultimately there is only one road, and that is the Gnana Sadhana, the knowledge journey to understand the Atma Gnana. The final goal is one, and that is Atma Gnana or Brahma Gnana, whatever we name it. It is the one knowledge of this divine consciousness which pervades all of us and in which everything is manifested. That is the ultimate knowledge. So Bhagavan also tells us in the next shloka that immature karma tyaga, if somebody gives up action without getting the required purity or maturity of our mind, it is very painful. A lot of people just by dukkha, just by just because they are bored or because they are stressed up, they want to give up karma. But this is very painful. Bhagavan says ayogataha, somebody who has not practiced yoga, karma yoga, and that person is immature. Sannyasa, if they take renunciation, then this is dukkham aptum. It is very painful, it is very miserable. They'll be very, very upset because they don't have the inner maturity. And whether it's yoga yukta muni brahma, one who has practiced, that muni who has practiced karma yoga, nachirena adhigachati, no time he achieves the moksha, liberation. And that's why Bhagavan is trying to tell us that it is only karma yoga that leads to purity, shuddhi, and samatva, buddhi, equanimity, which will help us to achieve the final liberation, atma gnana and moksha. So that is what Bhagavan is trying to tell. Now, how karma yoga will lead to this atma gnana knowledge? Bhagavan is telling us this link, those steps of the spiritual journey is telling us how with this sadhana of karma yoga we can reach to the sadhya, the goal of atma gnana, the knowledge. He says the first is yoga yukto vishuddhatma. Karma yoga leads to purifying our inner mind, vishuddhatma. Our inner self gets purified, raga dvesha gets dissolved, vijitatma bhavati. So vishuddhatma becomes vijitatma, he says, and with this inner mind we achieve a victory over our own inner self. And this person who is already vijitatma, jitendriya bhavati, achieves his own control over his indriya, manas, buddhi, ahankara, sarva bhutatma bhutatma bhavati. That person is able to see and aikya, oneness in everything, sees one as a soul of all the beings, sees the divinity that binds everything. Tada kurvannapi nalipyate. When this gnana happens, then even while that person is in action, does not get bound to action. And this is the result, this is the benefit, this is the mahima, this is the phala of the atma gnana, the self-knowledge, who already knows who he is. Aham brahmasmi. I am not just this body, mind, soul complex, but I am the divine, universal, changeless, divine consciousness, that is Brahma. This understanding that person does not get bound to. And how this knowledge can be manifested in life. How can we know it that some person is so wise? Bhagavan tells in the next two shlokas this, Naiva kinchit karomiti. That person believes. What is the understanding? Yukto tattvavita. That tattvavita person who is already knows this tattva, who has known truly this tattva. That person, what is the understanding of this person, this wise person? Naivam kinchit karomiti. I am not doing anything in spite of doing all the activities like pashyan, seeing, shrunavan, listening, sprushan, touching, jigran, smelling, ashnan, eating, gachan, walking, swapan, sleeping, breathing, swashan, everything, all the actions does during the day, even at night, all the voluntary, involuntary actions. The one in the next shloka says, pralapan, visrujan, speaking, purgating, accepting, granan, unmishan and nimishan, opening or closing eyes. All these activities are done. Firmly knows that indriyani indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. Firmly knows that all the sense organs are engaging in their objects, in the artha of the objects, the vishaya. So this is all the field of the anatma kshetra, and I am the atma, I am the sakshi, I am akarta swarupa, kinchit na karomi. I don't do anything. Does not have that false pride, does not have the kartrutva, does not have the the attachment to this aham karomi. That kind of a mithya abhiman does not have. And that's why this person does not believe, that wise person, that anything is done by him. So what is the difference in understanding? Guruji tells us between the wise and the unwise. The wise identifies with the real self, that Atma Swarupa. And that's why it does not have that kind of a pride or ego of a kartrutva abhimana, that mithya abhimana. And that's why this, even while they do their action, that karma, they do their karma, but the karma don't bind them. Whereas the unwise person who is already identifies with the body, mind and soul, body, mind and intellect and the complex, the anatma kshetra, acts with the pride because that has a ahankara, that I am the doer, I am doing this, I have done so much, I can do so much. This kind of a kartrutva abhimana is the one that binds us to the karma, and that's why that person is in bondage of the karma. In the next shloka, Bhagavan talks about the karma yoga. He says, Brahmani adhyaya karmani, one who surrenders, does all his actions or her actions according to the karma yoga bhavana, that is surrendering to the Lord, Ishwararpana bhava, as Bhagavan has already talked about in the third Adhyaya. Sangam Tyaktva, performs all actions without getting bound to the fruits of the actions with the prasada buddhi, whatever comes back as a result or the outcome of the actions, accepts everything, shares everything, prasada buddhi. Bhagavan says, Lipyate na sapapena, does not get bound to any sins because whatever it does is out of awareness. Padma Patram Ivambasa lives like a lotus leaf in water. So, like a lotus, well, it lives in water. It stays in the water, but does not get, even if you pour a drop on the lotus leaf, it will just fall off. Does not get attached to water. Similarly, that person lives in the world full of people where there is so much actions, karma, but still does not get bound to the karma phala. It has prasada buddhi. So when person lives with this kind of a, without attachment, without abhimana, without pride, does not get bound to the karma. It's only this abhimana and this asakti. Both are the main problems that bind us to the karma. That is what Bhagavan is trying to tell us. And what is the main benefit of Karma Yoga? Bhagavan says it is Atma Shuddhi, inner purification. Kayana Manasa Buddhya, Keval Indriya Karma Yogi performs all these selfless actions with the body, mind, intellect, and Kaivala Indriya with only the senses. Karma Kurvanti Sangam Tyaktva, without attachment to the results. And this is how they do the karma. And the purpose of doing all the karma, Bhagavan says, is Atma Shuddhi. It is for the purification of the inner mind. Antakarana Shuddhi is the main goal of the Karma Yogi, because that only makes him or her eligible for Atma Jnana. So the yogi works with a detachment, from a kind of a detachment from the body, mind, senses, though lives with this body but does not get attached to all this karma. So this is the difference between the wise and the unwise. The wise is free from all this kartrutva abhimana, is firmly established in the akarta atma swarupa, is not bound to the results, karma phala, and that's why is liberated from all the actions. Whereas unwise person who falsely identifies with the body mind complex, this anatma, and does a lot of mithya abhimana, pride that I am the doer, which ultimately our Vedanta tells us that that is a mithya, it is a false, it is an illusion, and gets bound to karma, and that's why attains this sukha dukkha rupa sansara, and that's why has to go around in the sansara, has to take several births, has to take several lives, and to do all the karma, and to enjoy the fruits of all the actions. Bhoga also has to take many births. So what is the difference between the yukta and the ayukta? Bhagavan is telling us here. He says yukta karma phalam tyaktva. The yukta person, who is a person who is a paripurna, a fully aware person, a karma yogi, karma phalam tyaktva, renounces all the results of action, knows that in my territory is only karma, karma phala is not my territory. Whatever gets karma phala, it accepts everything, and this is the attitude with which this karma yogi is doing the karma. Shantim apnoti naishtikam, achieves an eternal bliss or peace, shanti. Whereas ayukta person who is not doing his activities or karma with awareness, this person kama karana, acts only by the impulses, the desires that come in, and that's why phale sakto nibadyate, remains attached to the results and achieves what is ashanti, always is restless. There is no peace of mind. Most of us, many of us today are this kind of, we are restless because we work with a lot of attachment to the results, to the actions, and that's why this right understanding is needed for us to relieve ourselves from this anxiety, restlessness, stress that accompanies all of us, and this is only possible by what Bhagavan is trying to tell us. So this nishkam karma, selfless action or karma yoga that Bhagavan is telling us, has to have some kind of a prayojana. It cannot be without any purpose. Karma phalam tyaktva, without attachment to the karma phala, does not mean that it is not attached to prayojana. Actions are always done with some purpose, some intention is always there behind doing any action. And that's why some reasonable amount of purpose, intention will be there. Even if an engineer is doing some work or a doctor is treating the patient, some purpose or intention is always there, that my patient should do well after giving this medicine or after doing this surgery. So that kind of an intention is always there. It is not that there is no intention or purpose. That is a wrong understanding of karma yoga. Selfless actions also have a motive. They also have a prayojana. So that is, this prayojana is what is called as a vritti. It is by intention, and that is a vritti rupa. And this vritti is there in our antakarana. In our inner self, this is also called a punja. It's a bundle of all these vritti. So these vrittis are nothing but our emotions that arise, and the purification of our mind. When we say antakarana shuddhi, that itself means nothing but purifying these emotions, this vritti. So Karma Yoga endeavors to develop the sattvic vritti, the good thoughts, the good deeds, the good actions, all the sattvic sadhana. And this is the part of the spiritual journey, to be aware about our thoughts and elevate our vritti to make it more sattvika. So entire spiritual journey is nothing but elevating ourselves from these tamasic and the rajasic tendencies that we all innately have towards going towards more sattvic good tendencies, and from there we have to transcend. We have to nistray gunyo bhavarjuna. Bhagavan has already told Arjuna that we have to rise above all these three gunas, nistray gunya, and that is towards divinity, towards transcending this material world, this material self, and understand that universal binding force that binds all of us. Now, from the next shloka, after talking about the Karma Yoga and its sadhana and its description, Bhagavan is now talking about the Gnana Prakarana, the knowledge part. He says, Vashi, that person who is a wise person, who has a control over the inner self, Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasya, renounces all the actions by the mind, by intellect, and Navadware Pure Dehi, lives in this body with 9 gates. Our body is considered to be having 9 gates, Navadwara, the 2 nostrils, the 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the mouth. So 7, and the 2 excretory organs, the urinary and the stool. So total 9 gates are there in our body. And it does by na eva kurvanna karan, but not doing anything, not getting anything done, sukham aste, lives happily. So this dehi means the jiva, who lives in this body of the 9 gates, doing anything, not getting done anything, understand that he lives happily, eternal with eternal bliss. And next shloka, Bhagavan talks about the Shuddha Atma Swarupa, the pure consciousness, which is asanga, which is unattached, which is akarta, does not do anything. Bhagavan says, Lokasya srujati prabhu. This God does not create all this in this world. He says, na kartrutvam. The doership feeling, that pride, that ahankara is not created by the God. Na karmani, all the actions that we do, the karma is not created by the God. And third, na karma phala sanyoga, the attachment to the fruits of the actions. This is all not created by Atma, which is Atsanga. The Paramarthik Swarupa of the Bhagavan is Shuddha Atma, Atma Swarupa. And this Atma Swarupa is Asanga, Akarta Swarupa, does not have all these. And where all this is situated, Bhagavan says, all these 3 are situated at Swabhava Pravartate. These happen in the nature. Nature, Swabhava, Prakriti, Maya. All this is a Kshetra of Anatma. So Atma, Anatma, Viveka is what Bhagavan is trying to tell us, that all this is part of Atma, which does not create this, whereas all this happens in the Anatma Kshetra. So Guruji explains this further and shows us the nature of the Prakriti or the Swabhava are of 2 types. Ultimately, one is the existence, the God which has created this creation, that is called the Jagata or the Srushti. Whereas the other is the Sansara, that is the world, which is created by the Jiva, and that is called the Jiva Parampara, the human beings that create the Jiva Parampara. It is different from the nature cycle, which is a creation. But the Jiva Parampara is called the Sansara, and here is where the Dukkha comes. Whereas the creation of the Lord is all Sukha. There is no Dukkha in the creation of the Lord. But in the human creation, we develop all these judgments. We become judgmental. We label things like good, bad, I like it, I don't like it. All this is based on our strong Raga Dvesha. And that's why this creates all the problems and miseries for all of us humans. We have created these miseries for ourselves. And the root cause of this, according to the Lord, is Ajnana, ignorance of our own self, which is also called Avidya, when it is situated in an individual or a Vyashti level, whereas it is on a Samashti level, it is called Maya. On a universal level, with this same Ajnana is called Maya. And only by this Atma Gnana, only this self-knowledge has the power to liberate us from this world, from this Sansara. Otherwise, the Jagata and the Jiva, when they get together, they create their own Sansara. It's their own world, which is the cause, real cause for bondage. Bhagavan also tells us that all these virtues, vices, Papa, Punya are also part of Anatma. They are also the cause of for Sansara. Vibhuhu. In the earlier shloka, Bhagavan says Prabhu for Atma Tattva. Here, Bhagavan uses the word Vibhuhu. Vibhuhu means that Vyapak, that omnipresent consciousness, that Paramatma. Na adatte kasyachit papam, that does not perceive anyone's papa, punya, sukruta, dushkruta. All this is not part of the the Atma Tattva. It's all agnane avrutam gnanam, that self-knowledge is obscured by ignorance, and that is the reason tena muhyanti jantava, that is a cause for the attachment for all the human beings. This bondage is because of this agnana. And then what does gnana do? And gives an example of sunlight. Jnanana tu tadajnanam. One whose ignorance is destroyed by this Atma Jnana, Tesham Adityavaj Jnanam. Just like a sunlight illuminates everything, eliminates darkness, illuminates everything, Prakashayati Tatparam. Similarly, this Brahma Jnana, this self-knowledge, once we have this, illuminates the eternal consciousness. It not only illuminates our own self, because Brahma Jnana is Swaprakasha, we know that Brahma is Swaprakasha, and it also illuminates everything else, Paraprakasha. Just like sunlight also is Swaprakasha and illuminates others, Paraprakasha. But there is something that illuminates the sun, and that is this Atma Tattva, this Brahma Tattva, which illuminates, which is a self, which is Swaprakasha, and which is also Paraprakasha. So this is the understanding of this Jnana. And how we can attain this Jnana, Bhagavan tells us the steps of the pursuit of this Jnana sadhana, this Jnana. Tad buddhaya, surrender this intellect with a firm resolve. Buddhi, the main purpose of the buddhi is to decision making, the resolution, the resolve, firm resolve that I want, my goal is the supreme. By Shravana, I have to understand this knowledge from the Guru, by the help of Vedanta, all the scriptures. Tat Atmanam. Aspire to be one with the Atma. You have to have that goal very clearly, and all the obstacles that come in between us, all the doubts that arise in between have to be resolved by doing manana. Tannishtha, firm resolve to change all our purva, viparit sanskaras, all our old past contradictory impressions that we have had, that I am this body, I am this mind. But reality, Vedanta tells us, I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not this intellect, I am beyond that. So this understanding, to change this completely, all these viparit sanskaras, all my strong beliefs that I've had for years, not years, for so many births, have to be changed. And this requires a lot of sadhana, nididhyasana, the Vedantic type of a meditation, to change all our sanskaras. And tat parayana, our goal only is one, that is Brahma Tat, that is the Brahma Paramatma, that is the goal. And with this, if we continue our, what happens, what is the benefit, what is the Gnana Phala, that Bhagavan tells us freedom from life, that cycle, the Videha Mukti, Kachantya Punaravrittim, Gnana Nirdhuta Kalmashaha. All the impurities are washed off by this self-knowledge, and that person achieves the liberation, moksha, and Apanaravruttim Gachanti, does not have to come back again on this earth, is relieved from the cycle of birth and death, birth and death. And this is after death, when we get this freedom. This is called Videha Mukti. That in Vedanta, this person who gets his Atma Gnana has a Sadeha Mukti. Even while that person is living, is liberated, is free from all these attachments, afflictions, and all these bandhana, bondage. Whereas even after the death of the body, that person does not have to live or get the birth again. And that's why that is called Videha Mukti. And what is the vision of this wise person who has this Atma Gnana or the self-knowledge? Bhagavan tells us that they have a Samatva Drashti, they have the equanimous vision. Bhagavan says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Pandita Samadarshinaha, the wise sees oneness everywhere. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane, the wise and the humble Brahmin. Gavi means a cow, Hastini is an elephant, Shuni is a dog, and Shwapaka is like an outcast or a chandal. In all these different people, Satvik, Rajasik, Tamsik, all these gunas, in all these different, the person, wise person, sees the one same Param Tattva, that is, that divinity which is holding everything together, and their vision is the same. They don't see all these outer differences in the names and the forms. Of course, their conduct, their vyavahara is different with different people. It is not that they are stupid. They will, with a dog and with a cow or an elephant or a Brahmin or a snake, they will behave differently because their conduct is different. According in the vyavahara, they will know that there is a difference in conduct. But the tattva, tatvikally, they will see the same tattva everywhere, and that's how their vision is. And this samatva, Guruji explains to us, is the sadhana to achieve the samatha, to achieve the sameness, to see sameness everywhere amongst all these differences is an important part of the spiritual journey. And the Param Samatva, the Brahma, which is the Param Samatva, is of course the goal. So Samatva is so very important in the sadhana. And how we can achieve this Samata or Samatva or equipoise, seeing one in the many, many, many differences that we always see, keep on seeing in this world. Everywhere we see all the differences. Bheda Buddhi, how we can see this oneness, a Bheda in all this, for the aspirant, for the sadhaka, seeker, and this means, it becomes a means, it's a sadhan to achieve this samatva. Whereas for the accomplished, for the sadhya who is already an accomplished, a wise person, this becomes very natural. To see the oneness is very natural because it's gone through this sadhana and has achieved this samatva, param samatva, the Brahma. And that's why to have samatva in the vyavhara, in the conduct, it becomes very natural, sahaja for the Gnani Mahapurusha. So unwise, for the unwise, due to raga dvesha, we see all these differences. Whereas for the wise, there is no raga dvesha, they see oneness in everything, all the differences. So to see this one divinity in all this, behind all these forms and shapes, that indwelling divinity is one. That is the part of the sadhana, and it depends on our vision. So ultimately our spiritual journey is to change our vision from seeing all these differences to seeing oneness in all these differences. And more we see the oneness, more is the samatva inside us, more is the purity. That is a direct relationship between samatva and shuddhi. So Guruji tells us that, more this samatva buddhi, lesser the raga dvesha, more is antakarana shuddhi, more is the, cleaning our inner self. And where do we have to achieve this samatva? Bhagavan says, sargo. In this very life, in this very world, here and now only, in this life, we have to achieve this samatva. Bhagavan says, for one whose mind is firmly established in this firm one, samaswarupa Brahma. And Bhagavan says Brahma, for Brahma, Bhagavan uses two words, nirdosham and samam Brahma. Nirdosha because it is completely innocent, there is no dosha, there is no guna, there is no dosha. Brahma is without any attributes. And sama, Brahma is param samatva because it is beyond all the differences. There are no differences of age. It is Brahma is there in all ages. Sex, it is all sexes. Caste, Hindu, Muslim, Christians, everybody is Brahma Swarupa, is the same divinity. Even nations, boundaries, color of the skin, all race, caste, everything, beyond everything, not just humans, but all the species, Brahma is the same. And even beyond all the living beings and the non-living beings also, that Brahma that pervades is the same. Only it is that it is manifested in the living being, whereas it is not manifested in the non-living being. And that's what is the Brahma. That's why it's a param samatva. It is same everywhere. Tasmat te brahmani sthitaha. That's why one who is firmly rooted in this samatva is rooted in Brahma. So Brahma and Sama is both one and the same. One who is rooted in Sama is rooted in Brahma. One who is rooted in Brahma is rooted in Sama. And that's why the entire life we have to practice this samatva. Victory over our mind, having samatva in our mind is the real success of our life. That is what our Shastras tell us. So the true vision, according to our scriptures, is to see sarvatra samadarshana, sameness everywhere. And this is the true victory over oneself. This is the inner engineering that we need to do to, see this. And that's when we are not affected by all these different worldly situations, events that happen every day, every time. And we try to achieve the ultimate happiness, the eternal bliss that Lord is talking about. For the seeker, it is a part of the journey and definitely the goal. And this can only be possible by avoiding undue importance, mahatva buddhi, to a lot of worldly things and being equipoised samatva in any situation. That is what Gita ji teaches us. And the entire spiritual journey is for achieving samatva. So this is like an inside-out approach. There is an outer world. There is our inner mind. Outer world keeps changing. There is something which is not beyond in my control, but my mind is under my control. This is where I need to decide to remain calm, remain peaceful amidst all the chaos. And whatever I need to do is with my own mind, not anything outside. Most of the times we are all, very, very, very eager to change outside people, others. We're trying to change. Why you don't listen to me? I tell you this, but you still don't do this. This is what we do, and that's why we feel painful misery, because others are not under my control. It is this inside-out approach. I have to change myself. And there is this famous quote which says that if you want to see the change outside, first change yourself, then you'll be seeing the change outside. This is nothing but the inside-out approach. And this is up to me. It is my responsibility that I have this understanding, I have this peace of my mind with which I can live life. So the attitudes to achieve the peace of life, peace of samatva in life, Guru Ma explains us that first and foremost, be proactive. What needs to be done, we should know, not just defensive or reactive. that people, whenever somebody tells me something, I'll say something, or when somebody tells me to do something, I'll do something. I should try to be proactive based on my goals, my attitudes, my, by the where I want to reach. Accepting of any result, the worst case scenario, will make us very peaceful, because then those anxieties or what will happen will go away. Look for a permanent solution rather than a temporary solution, long-term solution. And adverse situations, whenever they happen in life, we should ask for help from more learned, from the more wise people. Just when we have a disease, we go to the doctor. Similarly, if we have a problem, then we can approach a learned person with a firm resolve that I want to remain peaceful, remain calm at any cost. That is my most important treasure. That is my biggest asset. And Samatva does not mean that we become very dry, we become emotionless. Samatva does not mean that we don't have any sukha, dukkha, nothing, no emotions. That is not the meaning of Samatva. Samatva means that we learn to manage our emotions well, and we avoid the extremes of emotions, not to be too happy when the situation is good, as we label it, and not to be too sad when the situation is on the other side. So Samatva teaches us to live in the present and in the now, not to brood over our past, not to be unusually or unnecessarily be anxious or restless about what is going to happen in the future, but try to focus in the now and be in the present. This is what is the real essence of life. And only a stable person, Samatva, is eligible for the Atmagnana. Bhagavan is telling us, Sthira Buddhihi, one whose intellect is focused on one who is asammudaha, one who has no attachments, moha. After getting what one likes or does not get too elated. When it doesn't, after not getting what one does not like, does not become very upset also. So it avoids all these extremes of emotions. Only such a person who is firmly rooted in Samatva can be established in the self-knowledge, Brahma Gnana. That is what Bhagavan tells us. So, and essentially our journey is from seeing all the differences, Vishamata or Bheda, to seeing oneness, Samata, Abheda, from the relative equanimity, the Sapeksha Samatva in this world, to absolute equanimity, the real, the true Purna Samatva, Brahma, and from being a seeker or a sadhak to become the Gnani, to see this Atma Tattva. And this is my firm resolve. Bhagavan says, Sthira Buddhi, this is my responsibility as a seeker to set the goals. What is the purpose of my life? Where do I want to reach? How am I going to reach there? To decide all the sadhana, and then commit my life to this higher goal by using all these different sadhanas, and then gradually try to assimilate this learning in my life so that I can change my life for the better. And asammuda, without any attachment. What is this moha or attachment? Moha means it dilutes or dilutes my right, correct vision. It does not allow me to see what is a correct thing. It shows me a different view. And this moha is because I identify myself with this body. I have this ahankara, with this body-mind complex, and then I feel that all these are mine. They belong to me. These people, these words, objects, all these possessions are mine. And this moha causes this ahankara, mamakara, and these are the main causes for this moha. And the root cause is the atma agnana, the false identification to our body-mind complex. So self-knowledge is the only solution which destroys this moha, and that person is called asammudaha, according to the Lord. And this Gnani person has no identification with his own body, is nirmoha, has no moha also with his body or with the others. So what is the real happiness Bhagavan is talking about? Is it outside or is it inside? Bhagavan says, Bahya sparseshu saktatma, that seeker who is unattached to Bahya sparsha, that outer happiness, which is by illusion, or which is kind of perceived by the contact of the senses, Indriya and the Vishaya. The sparsha of this, when they come in contact with Indriya and Vishaya, we perceive that there is some feeling of pleasure or happiness that happens. This person who is unattached to this kind of asaktatma obtains vindati atmani yat sukham, is able to obtain the eternal happiness in one's own self, and that can only be by meditation, by contemplating on our own self. Sabrahma yoga yuktatma, that balanced person who is firmly connected with this Brahma divinity, sukham akshayam ashnute, experiences an everlasting, eternal divinity, that divine bliss within his own self. So bliss, Bhagavan is trying to tell us, is within, but we generally keep looking outside for happiness. And that's why Guru Maharaj tells us how this sense pleasures which come from outer happiness is different from the inner sukh or the inner bliss, the Brahma sukh, that Atma sukh that we get from our own self. So sense pleasures are dependent on outside. That makes us dependent on outside, whereas inner bliss is independent. It is within us. There is no sense, no objects are needed. Sense pleasures require the presence of some sense objects. Even inner sukh, inner bliss, something that we can have even without, even while we are in deep sleep, we will get this inner bliss. There are no senses, no objects. But sense pleasures are transient, whereas the inner bliss is permanent. Once that person is wise, it is, the inner bliss is completely fully satisfied, paripurna avastha, whereas Vishaya Sukh, there is always a wanting, always a seeking more and more. One always remains unsatisfied, and that's why it leads to more anxiety and stress. Whereas with inner bliss, the person is completely wise and peaceful, and that is the person who is a wise person, whereas a Vishaya Sukh is a person who is an unwise person. So seeker on a journey has to first give up the outer pleasures or sense-related happiness, and that's why the Indriya Sanyama is so important, to give up these Vishaya Sukha, sense pleasures. And that's why Vairagya with the Viveka is considered to be so very important for this understanding. Bhagavan again deprecates the sense gratification, the sense pleasures, and says they are the main cause for pain. Sansparsha jap hoga. Those pleasures, sense pleasures which are obtained by the contact of the senses with the objects outside, dukkha yonaya evate. They are only the causes for miseries, Bhagavan says. And this is because we keep overindulging in them. If we indulge with Sanyama, there is no dukkha. But most of the times when we get some pleasure, we always want more and more pleasure. And this greed always creates more overindulgence. May it be good food, may it be any other thing, money or whatever it is, wealth, possessions, all are. We keep craving for more and more. And then Bhagavan is telling Arjuna that you see that this is adhyantavanta kaunte. Oh Arjuna, they are all very transient. They come and go. They don't remain with you forever. And nateshu ramate puta. And that's why with this understanding, the wise person does not indulge in them. They don't indulge in this kind of sense pleasures too much, because they understand that they are dukkha yonaya. They give pain, miseries, and they are adhyantavantaha. They come and go. More and more sense pleasures leads to more and more miseries. Bhoga leads to more roga, and that's why Bhagavan says one should not, the wise people would not, do Ramana in them. So what do all humans want? They all want happiness. We always want, whatever we do is for happiness, because we are listening, understanding Geeta is also for our own becoming more and more happy. But we do not want any pain. We want pure happiness, which is not mixed with any kind of pain. And we don't want transient happiness. We want eternal or forever happiness. And essentially what we want is moksha. But we don't know that we want moksha. And that's why we keep going on in this uncontrolled sense gratification, which ultimately gives us pain, as Bhagavan is telling us. So Ishvara has created this existence, Srushti, and this Jagata, which is blissful, Sukhada. But Jiva creates his own sansara based out of own raga dvesha, which gives him pain, which gives him dukkhada. And it is only because his understanding is not right that we get this pain. It is not pain, is not given by anybody outside us. It is our own misunderstanding which gives us this pain and miseries. That is what our scriptures tell us. So Bhagavan says, one who controls his desires and anger is the person who is truly happy. Sa sukhi naraha. That person is truly happy. Shaknoti ihaiva. In this only life is able to control prak sharira vimokshana. Before the body comes to an end, the force, the kama krodot bhavam vegam, the force of desires and anger, that person sayukta naraha. That person is a fulfilled yogi. That person is a sukhi naraha. That person is a truly happy person. So desires and angers are the main two enemies for us. In 3rd Adhyaya, Bhagavan has also said this, Kama Krodha, they are the main enemies for us, because not only they are difficult to control this force, but they also invite other vices like Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. All the other vices are also invited by Kama Krodha. And that's why Kama Krodha needs more efforts to control. It requires more peace of my mind, better understanding, and giving priority to this peace of mind. If there is no peace of mind, there is no progress in life. And we have to manage this raga, dvesha, this kama, krodha by temporary as well as long-term solutions. Temporary solutions to anger can be diverting our mind, just like we divert the mind of a child from one desire to the other, from one toy to the other, staying away from the circumstances that ignite this kind of desires, anger, and washing our face when we get angry, taking a shower, seeing our face in the mirror, or leaving that place where we are getting angry or getting desires, going to the nature, take a deep breath. and finally asking from the Lord for help to help us to get from this desires and anger. Accepting anger as a vice, not justifying anger, with a firm resolution that I want to change this, taking each day at a time, taking a daily resolution that today I will not become angry, and passing our day with utmost awareness, doing some kind of a self-introspection at the end of the day, and knowing whether we have become successful or we have failed, and then slowly and steadily making progress is a good way. But the permanent solution is to understand that this world is like a drama. It's like an illusion. It is like a movie that I am watching on the screen, and this illusion is created by the Maya Shakti of the Lord. And every human behaves according to their own conditioning, by their own habits. I cannot change them. And that's why I should not give undue importance to this world, the way people speak, the way the people behave, the way the people talk, the way things happen in this world. Don't give undue importance to it, with this understanding that all is a big drama, a big illusion, and giving the most importance to my own peace of mind. And by the understanding that I have to leave these desires, this anger once and for all, why should I not leave it now? And trying to see that one Chaitanya, one divinity which is within all, when trying to forgive people, by knowing that we are all connected in some one way. We are all connected, and that's why it is good to forgive. I also forgive myself for all the problems that happen to myself, or the mistakes that I do. Similarly, I should forgive others for their mistakes as well. And sometimes, occasionally, we may have to do some anger, but that should be like a drama. When parents do it for the welfare of their children, teachers do it for the welfare of their students, and a good friend wants to change another friend out of his addictions or his bad habits, then one has to do a kind of an anger drama. But this anger drama is nothing but when the anger is also under my control, I am not under the control of anger, and next moment I have a complete peace of mind. In the next shloka, Bhagavan describes what are the attributes of the wise person. That person who is anta sukha, whose happiness is all inside within his or her own self, in anta karana, who does not look outside for happiness. Anta arama, his own pleasures and the peace are also within inside. Antar jyotihi, the light of knowledge is within inside. Sayogi Brahma Bhutaha, that yogi who is one with the Brahma, achieves the liberation, Brahma Nirvanam Adhigacchati, that achieves moksha. And then Bhagavan says, this person who is Rishi, who has already seen this tattva, Labante Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. This person who is Sarva Bhuta Hite means lives for the betterment of all, lives a Nishkam Karma, selfless life. Yatatmanaha, one whose mind senses Yataha, Atmanaha, everything is under Sanyam, under control. Chinna Dveda, all the doubts have been destroyed by this Atmagnana, by this understanding. Shina Kalmashaha, all the impurities, the sins have also been Shina, have been destroyed, have been washed away. That person is the one who is eligible for Brahma Nirvana Labante. Such rishis achieve freedom, they achieve moksha. So when we talk of Tattva, Bhagavan talks about the root element, the foundation of all the anaropitakar vastu, on which there is no identification of any form. It is the Adhisthana, it is the substratum for everything, on which everything is Adhyastha, where everything is, is attached, on not attached, but it is identified onto this Adhisthana. Just like from a sand or the mati, this ghata, all the different forms and shapes are made just from a gold, suvarna. All these different gharana or different jewelries can be made, where the mati and the suvarna are the Adhisthana, whereas the different ghata are the Adhyastha, different forms of jewelry are the ghata, Adhyastha. Similarly, this is the Atma Tattva, which is the Adhisthana, on which all these different forms and names and forms are Adhyastha. And that Tat, second meaning of the Tat is Tattva, is Tat is the pure eternal consciousness. The Brahma is also known as Tat, and Tattvam means the Jiva Brahma Aikya, the oneness is also Tattvam. So Tattva is a kind of these are the meanings. So now what is the culmination of that wise person? The Bhagavan talks about the last shloka of the 5th Adhyaya. He says, Kama Krodha Viyuktanam, one who is devoid of all these desires, anger. Yatinam, who is constantly doing efforts, who is Prayatnashil, Yatnashil. Yatachetasam, whose mind is balanced, who has developed this Sahaja Sanyama in his mind. Vidit Atmanam, one who has known himself truly, completely. Abhitaha, from all sides, Brahma Nirvana Vartate, achieves and lives in eternal peace. He becomes truly independent. And this is what is our goal in life. This is what we have to do. Try to get ourselves devoid from these desires, from anger, constantly try to achieve, develop a kind of a balance of our mind, try to understand what is this Atma Gnana that Bhagavan is talking about. And this is where Bhagavan completes the 5th Adhyaya. The last 3 shlokas of the 5th Adhyaya are the link to the 6th Adhyaya. The 6th Adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita is the Dhyana Yoga. It is also called the Atma Sanyama Yoga, where Bhagavan talks about how we should develop this restraint, control over self by meditation. He talks about the Nididhyasana, the Vedantic meditation, how it should be done, what it should be done, what is the goal, what is the state of the mind in Nididhyasana. But the last 3 shlokas, Bhagavan talks about in the 27, the meditation, Dhyana, 28, the Dhyata, the person who does the meditation, the seer, and finally, what is the Dhyaya, the goal, the Tattva Nirupana. With this, the 6th Adhyaya will start. So in the 22nd shloka, Bhagavan talks about the meditation. He says, Bahya Sparshan Bahikrutva, outer objects, Bahyam Sparshan, all these outer objects should be kept outside. When we do meditation, Chakshu Chaivantare Bhuvoho, who should be focused at the center of the eyebrows, all our eyes, Prana Panav Samokrutva, all our prana, apana, all our inspiration, expiration must be in balance, must be very gentle, must be with awareness, and we must keep the breath in the balance. Nasabhyantaracharina. There is a close relationship between the breath and the mind. The more we focus on the breath and make it quiet, the mind also becomes more quiet. And that's why this is what is the practice of meditation. What for the meditator, the dhyata, how should he be? That person should be Muni, Mananshila, who uses the intellect to control the mind. Yata Indriya Mana Buddhi, sense, mind and intellect is under control. Moksha Parayana, whose goal of life is to become free. Vigadicha Bhaya Krodha, let go of all the desires, fears and angers. Such a person only is eligible to become free. That meditator can become free, then develop moksha. And finally, in the last shloka, Bhagavan talks about what is the goal. And here in the meditation, he talks about the Sopadhika Dhyana, that Dhyana of the form divinity, that Sopadhik Swarup of the Bhagavana. Bhagavan says, Gnatva Mam, by knowing me thus as the Bhoktaram, as a beneficiary of Yagna and Tapa. When Yagna and Tapa, we give some ahutis, those ahutis reach the Lord, the Ishvara. Tapa is also done for Bhagavan says, all this Bhokta, I am the Bhokta of all these Yagna and Tapa. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, I am the Lord of all the beings, Bhagavan says. And I am the Surudam Sarva Bhutanam, I am the friend of all. I don't want to do bad for anyone. I do want to do good for everyone without any reciprocation. God has given us everything. And he always is a Suruda. Suruda is a friend who does not expect any reciprocation. And with this understanding, if we know the Lord as this, then Bhagavan says, Shanti Mrukchati, that person achieves the eternal bliss, Shanti. And that is only possible by that Aikya, which is in the Samadhi. The yogi will feel this eternal bliss, and a seeker will feel this when he develops moksha or gets liberated with Atma Gnana. So to summarize the 5th Adhyaya, Bhagavan initially talks about whether Karma Yoga or Gnana Yoga, KarmSanyasa is to be done with in response to the Arjuna's question, answers that both are good, but Karma Yoga is the best. Most of us are eligible for Karma Yoga. Then he describes the attributes of the Karma Yogi, how he does work, and also then describes the attributes of a Sankhya Yogi, the knowledgeable, the wise person. And finally, in the final shlokas, described how with this understanding, with this Gnana, what is our Samatva Drashti, how we have to renounce the Karma Sannyasa, and what is the Samatva in life, what is the Anta Sukha, what is the Bahya Sukha, and all this Bhagavan talks about. And finally, in the last 3 shlokas, he talks about the meditation, the Dhyana Yoga, linked to the 6th Adhyaya, which is also very beautiful Adhyaya of Atma Sanyama Yoga. So with this, we come to the end of the 5th Adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade KarmaSanyasa Yogo Nama Panchamodhyayah Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Shuchaha. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Parah Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.